I wasn't supposed to hear it. I was in my own kitchen washing plates after dinner when my daughter-in-law, Rosalia's voice, drifted from the living room. She thought I was upstairs. She was on the phone, and her words cut through the sound of running water like a knife. We'll move into her house soon. Mark is her only child. She won't say no. I stopped mid-scrub, soap dripping from my fingers. Her house? The house I had worked 2 jobs to keep after my husband died? The house I had paid every mortgage check on, alone for the past 12 years. The house I had scraped and saved for while they complained about their noisy apartment and expensive landlord? That house? I stood there, frozen, while Rosalia kept talking, her voice casual, confident, entitled. It's big enough for all of us. We can stay there until we find something better. She's getting old anyway. She'll probably be relieved to have us there. Old. Like I was expiring. Like I was an item on a shelf past its sell-by date. I set the plate down carefully, my hands shaking. Not from age, from rage. My name is Jessica, and I've been helping my son, Mark, and his wife, Rosalia, for 3 years. I paid for groceries when Rosalia lost her job, $200 a month for 4 months, just until you're back on your feet. I bought their wedding gift, a check for $1,500 they cashed the same day. I gave Mark money for his car repair, $800. I invited them to Sunday dinners every week and sent them home with containers of leftovers so they wouldn't have to cook. I never asked for thanks. I never kept a running tab, not out loud anyway. But I did keep receipts, not to throw in their faces. I keep receipts because I like order. Because I'm the kind of woman who balances her checkbook and writes things down. Because when you've worked as hard as I have for what you own, you remember what it cost. And now, standing in my kitchen with dish soap on my hands and my daughter-in-law's voice in my ears, I was doing the math. 3 years of help. 3 years of, can you lend us? And we're a little short this month. And you're so generous, Mom. 3 years of me saying yes because Mark is my only child. And isn't that what mothers do? But they weren't asking anymore. They were planning to move into my house, planning my life around their convenience, planning to take what I built and call it theirs. She kept talking on that phone call, and I kept listening. She won't need all that space forever, Rosalia said, laughing a little. It'll be perfect for them. I thought about the years after my husband died, the nights I worked overtime so Mark could go to college without debt, the times I ate canned soup for dinner so I could pay the property taxes on time, the promise I made to myself while signing those mortgage papers, alone, my hands shaking. No one will ever make me homeless. No one will ever make me beg my own child for a roof over my head. That's when I made another decision, one that took me 2 years to execute. I bought a second house. It's smaller, farther out, in a quiet neighborhood no one in my family ever visits. I told Mark about it once, casually the way you mentioned getting your oil changed. I'm going to see the realtor about an investment property, I said. He nodded, scrolling through his phone, not even looking up. So they knew I saw a realtor. They just didn't know I actually bought the place. 2 houses. One they knew about, one they didn't. And now, listening to Rosalia plan to take the one she knew about, I felt something cold and clear settle in my chest. I didn't storm into the living room. I didn't shout. I didn't confront her right there, phone in hand, and demand an explanation. That's not how women like me move. Instead, I finished washing the dishes. I dried my hands. I walked into the living room with a smile and asked if anyone wanted coffee. Rosalia looked up, surprised, guilty for just a flash of a second before her face smoothed into that sweet daughter-in-law expression. Oh, no thanks, Mom. We should probably get going." "So soon?" I said. "I made brownies." They stayed for brownies. They ate at my table, in my house, and talked about their week. Rosalia talked about some drama at her office. Mark complained about his landlord. Again. "The guy's impossible," he said. "Wants to raise our rent by $200 next month." "That's awful," I said, keeping my voice sympathetic. "Have you thought about looking for a different place?" They exchanged a glance. Quick, meaningful. "We've been looking," Rosalia said carefully, "but everything decent is so expensive right now." I said, and left it at that. When they stood to leave, I packed the remaining brownies in a container. "Take these home. I made too many anyway." Rosalia hugged me. "You're the best, Mom. We're so lucky to have you." Lucky. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. "Drive safe," I said, waving from the doorway as they got in their car. I stood there until their taillights disappeared around the corner. Then I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. But I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't call them back and demand an explanation. Instead, I went to my desk and pulled out my address book. I found the number I needed and checked the time, 8:47 p.m. Not too late. I dialed. "Hendrick's Law Office, this is the answering service." But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand what happened next, to understand why I did what I did, you need to know how I became the kind of woman who owns 2 houses in the first place. You need to know about the years after Tom died, when the mortgage felt like a mountain and Mark was just starting college. You need to know about the promise I made to myself, standing alone in this empty house, that I would never be at anyone's mercy ever again. You need to know that I didn't become strong overnight. I became strong over 12 years of mortgage payments, over 2 jobs, over nights when I ate toast for dinner so my son could have better. And you need to know that every single dollar I spent on Mark and Rosalia, I remembered. Not because I'm petty, but because I'm careful. And careful women don't get moved around like furniture. If you're ready to enjoy this thrilling story, click subscribe right now and tell me where in the world you're listening from. Your support helps us bring more wonderful stories, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let me take you back to where all the drama began. Tom and I bought this house when Mark was 5 years old. It was 1998. And we were young enough to believe that hard work and love could overcome anything. The house was a 3-bedroom colonial with blue shutters and a backyard big enough for a swing set. The mortgage made me anxious. $200 a month felt impossible. But Tom would squeeze my hand and say, "We'll make it work, Jess." We always do. And we did. Tom worked at the manufacturing plant, pulling overtime whenever it was offered. I worked part-time at the public library and did bookkeeping for 3 small businesses from our kitchen table, hunched over ledgers while Mark watched cartoons in the next room. Those were good years. Tight years, but good. We celebrated Mark's birthday parties in that backyard. We painted his bedroom blue when he turned 8 because he wanted it to look like the ocean. We hung Christmas lights on the porch every December and took pictures in front of the tree. This house held everything, every memory, every milestone, every moment that mattered. And then, on a Tuesday morning in March, while Mark was a senior in high school, Tom had a heart attack in the produce section of the grocery store. He was 46 years old. The funeral director was very gentle when he explained that the cheapest casket was $200. The cemetery plot was another $500. The service would be $800. I wrote the checks in a fog, my hand shaking so badly the signatures barely looked like mine. 3 days after we buried Tom, I found out the life insurance policy had lapsed. He'd been meaning to renew it. He'd kept saying he'd get to it. He never did. So there I was, a 43-year-old widow with a 17-year-old son. A $1,200 mortgage payment due in 2 weeks, and $347 in our checking account. That night, I sat at this kitchen table, the same one where I would later overhear Rosalia plotting, and I made myself 2 promises. 1, I would never be homeless. I would never depend on anyone else, not even my own child, to keep a roof over my head. 2, I would never have to beg, not for money, not for shelter, not for dignity. Those promises became my religion. I took a second job the following week, answering phones at a medical office, library in the mornings, doctor's office in the afternoons, bookkeeping at night after Mark went to bed. I slept 5 hours if I was lucky. Some months I ate cereal for dinner so Mark could have real food. Some months I wore the same rotation of 4 outfits to work and prayed no one noticed. But I paid that mortgage. Every month. On time. Mark graduated high school and got accepted to community college. It's cheaper, he said, trying to sound positive. I can live at home and save money. What he didn't know was that I was already working out how to pay for it. What he didn't see was me taking out a parent loan to cover his tuition when my paychecks fell short. 2 years at community college. Then he transferred to the state university. I took out another loan for the difference. Bigger this time, the kind that would take me years to pay off. He graduated debt-free at 23. I was 49 and would be paying off his education until I was 55. At his graduation party, he thanked me in front of all his friends. "My mom sacrificed a lot for me," he said, raising a beer. "I couldn't have done it without her." Everyone clapped. I smiled and told him I was proud of him. What I didn't tell him was that sacrifice meant 6 more years of double shifts, that it meant I'd given him something I never had, freedom from the weight of debt, and it had cost me my 50s. But that's what mothers do. We give until we're empty and call it love. 2 years after Mark graduated, something shifted in me. I was 51 years old. Mark had moved out, was working his first real job, dating a woman I hadn't met yet. The house felt enormous and quiet. I'd finally paid off the last of his college loans, and for the first time in 8 years, I had a little breathing room. That's when I saw the listing. A small house, 40 minutes outside of town, barely 900 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a postage stamp yard. The price was reasonable, the kind of reasonable that comes when a seller needs to move fast. I had been saving slowly in an account Tom never knew about. My freedom fund, I called it. $20 here, $50 there. Every time I had anything left over from the bookkeeping work. In 8 years, it had grown to $18,000. Enough for a down payment. I made an appointment with a realtor. I got pre-approved for a mortgage. I made an offer. When Mark called that week, I mentioned it casually. "I'm going to see a realtor about an investment property." "Oh, yeah?" He sounded distracted. I could hear a TV in the background. "That's cool, Mom, smart." He never asked if I bought it. Never asked where it was or what I was planning to do with it. And I never told him. Because by then I'd learned something crucial. The less people know about what you have, the less they can try to take. I closed on the house 30 days later. Small, manageable, mine. I rented it to a young couple, both teachers, who paid on time and sent Christmas cards. The rental income covered the mortgage with a little left over. It was my insurance policy, my escape hatch, my proof that I had kept both promises. I would never be homeless, and I would never have to beg. A year later, Mark brought Rosalia home for the first time. She was pretty in a sharp way, with perfect makeup and opinions about everything. She worked in marketing, she said, though mostly she seemed to work on her social media presence. Mark was completely smitten. They got engaged after 8 months. I paid for the rehearsal dinner at the restaurant Rosalia chose, eat $200 for 30 people, and a prix-fixe menu I thought was overpriced. I gave them $2,500 as a wedding gift. Rosalia's thank you note was one of those generic cards you buy in packs with my name spelled wrong, Jessica. They rented a 1-bedroom apartment in a complex near the highway. I visited once. You could hear every car, every siren, every neighbor through the paper-thin walls. The carpet was stained. The kitchen was the size of a closet. Rosalia complained the entire time I was there. The landlord was terrible. The rent was too high. The neighbors were trashy. Nothing was good enough. "Have you thought about buying something?" I asked gently. Mark laughed. "With what down payment?" I waited to see if he'd ask me for help. He didn't, so I didn't offer. But I did keep helping, in smaller ways, in ways they began to expect. When Rosalia lost her job, corporate restructuring, she called it, though the way she said it made me wonder, I started paying for their groceries. $200 a month, direct deposit into their account. Just until you're back on your feet. 4 months later, she got another job. The grocery money never stopped. They never mentioned it. I never asked. When Mark's car needed repairs, $800 for a new transmission, I wrote the check. When they couldn't afford their anniversary dinner, I sent a gift card. When Rosalia's birthday came, I bought her the designer handbag she'd been posting about online. $340 at Nordstrom. Every time they thanked me, every time it felt genuine in the moment. But gratitude and expectation sound the same until you really listen. I kept records of it all. Not because I planned to throw it in their faces, but because I'm organized. I keep receipts. I balance my checkbook. I write things down. When you've worked as hard as I have for what you own, you remember exactly what it cost. 3 years of helping. 3 years of, "Can you lend us?" and "We're a little short this month," and "You're so generous, Mom." 3 years of me saying yes because Mark was my only child. And isn't that what mothers do? But they weren't asking anymore. They were planning. I thought about the folder in my desk drawer. All those receipts, all those bank transfers, all those text messages asking for just a little help. I'd added it up once, late at night when I couldn't sleep. $23,000. $23,000 over 3 years. I'd worked 2 jobs so my son could have 1 childhood. I'd paid off his education so he could start life without debt. I'd given him everything I didn't have, and now, standing in my kitchen with dish soap on my hands and my daughter-in-law's voice in my ears, I understood something with perfect, terrible clarity. He didn't want to honor me. He didn't want to care for me. He didn't even want to live with me. He wanted to take what I'd built, both houses, the one he knew about and the one he didn't, not because he loved me, because it was convenient. I dried my hands slowly, carefully. I looked around my kitchen, my house, my home, the place I'd fought to keep, and I felt something cold and clear settle into my spine. Steel. Tom used to say I had a spine of steel under all that softness. "You're tougher than you think, Jess," he'd whisper on the hard nights. He was right. And Rosalia was about to find out exactly how tough I could be. And this is Jessica Caldwell. I need to schedule an emergency appointment with Mr. Hendricks, tomorrow morning if possible. It's regarding asset protection. Let me check his calendar. He has an opening at 9:30. Would that work? The secretary said, "Perfect." After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table in the quiet house and made a list. I've always been a list maker. Tom used to tease me about it. Things to do. 1. Meet with lawyer, trust documents. 2. Change locks. 3. Call Uncle George. 4. Document everything. I stared at that list for a long time. Then I added one more item. 5. Stop being afraid of my own son. The next morning, I dressed carefully. Navy blue slacks, a cream blouse, my good jacket. I wanted to look competent, clear-headed. Not like some confused old woman who could be dismissed. Gerald Hendricks had been our family attorney for 26 years. He'd handled the house purchase when Tom and I bought this place. He dealt with Tom's estate, what little there was after he died. He was in his late 60s now, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, with an office that smelled like leather and old books. "Jessica," he said, standing when his secretary showed me in, "it's good to see you. Please have a seat." I sat in one of the burgundy leather chairs across from his massive oak desk and placed my purse in my lap, hands folded on top of it. "Mr. Hendricks, I need to protect my house. From my family." His expression didn't change. He simply pulled a legal pad closer and picked up his pen. "Tell me what's happened." So I did. I told him about the phone call I'd overheard. About Rosalia's casual certainty that they'd be moving in soon. About Mark's constant complaints about their apartment and their landlord. About the 3 years of helping them financially and how they'd stopped asking and started assuming. "They're not planning to ask permission," I said, my voice steady. "They're planning to inform me, and I need to make sure that when they do, I have the legal right to say no." Mr. Hendricks made notes, his pen moving in precise strokes across the page. "What you're describing is unfortunately common," he said when I finished. "Adult children who view their aging parents' assets as inevitable inheritance, who feel entitled to make decisions on their behalf." He paused. "You're being very smart to act preemptively while you still have full legal capacity." The word aging stung a little. But he wasn't wrong. That's exactly how Rosalia saw me. Old, manageable, easy to convince. "Here's what I recommend," Mr. Hendricks continued. "We place your primary residence into a revocable living trust. You'll serve as trustee, which means you retain complete control over the property. But we'll include explicit language requiring your written, notarized permission before anyone, including family members, can occupy the residence." "What about my second property?" He consulted his notes. "The house on Birch Lane. That's solely in your name, correct? No co-owners, no mortgage?" "Correct. I own it outright." "Then we'll add documentation confirming it's separate from the trust and protected from any familial claims. We'll also draft a new will that clearly specifies your intentions for both properties upon your death. How long will this take? I can have the documents ready by Friday. You'll need a witness, someone not directly related to you who can attest to your mental competence if this is ever challenged." I thought immediately of Uncle George, Tom's younger brother. He lived 2 towns over, had Sunday dinner with me once a month, knew me well. My late husband's brother, George Caldwell, would he be suitable? Perfect. Bring him Friday at 2 o'clock, and we'll execute everything then. I stood and shook his hand. His grip was firm, reassuring. "Jessica," he said as I reached the door, "what you're doing isn't cruel. It's self-preservation. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting what's yours." I nodded, not trusting my voice. From Mr. Hendricks's office, I drove directly to Miller's Hardware on Main Street. Charlie Miller had owned the place for 40 years. He'd installed our water heater when Mark was 10, rebuilt our deck when Tom's arthritis got too bad. He was in his early 70s now, still working 6 days a week, still reliable. "Jessica Caldwell," he said when I walked in, wiping his hands on his canvas apron. "What brings you in today?" "I need the locks changed on my side door, today if you can manage it." Something flickered in his eyes, concern maybe, or just curiosity. "Everything all right?" "Everything's fine, Charlie. I just want to know exactly who has access to my house." He studied me for a long moment. Charlie had that way about him. He could read a situation without asking invasive questions. "I can come by around 3. That work for you?" "That's perfect." I said, "Thank you." "You want me to change all the locks or just the side door?" Charlie asked. I hesitated. The front door lock was relatively new, but the side door, that's the one Mark had a key to, the one he'd used to check on me without calling first. Just the side door for now. "I'll see you at 3 then." And I left. Charlie arrived at exactly 3 p.m., toolbox in hand. It took him less than 30 minutes to install a new deadbolt and handle set. "This is a good lock," he said, demonstrating. "Solid. Someone tries to pick it, you'll know." He handed me 3 keys. "One for your keychain, one for a backup, and one in case you lose the other 2. "Thank you, Charlie." "You sure everything's okay, Jessica?" I managed a smile. "I'm just being careful." "And you know how it is, woman living alone." He nodded, but his eyes said he knew there was more to it. "You call me if you need anything else. Doesn't matter what time." After he left, I tested the new lock. Solid, secure. Mine. I put 1 key on my keychain, 1 in my purse, and 1 in an envelope in my desk drawer, labeled clearly. Mark's old key wouldn't work anymore, and he didn't know it yet. That evening, I called Uncle George. "Jessica!" His voice was warm, so much like Tom's it hurt. "How's my favorite sister-in-law?" "I'm well, George. I need to ask you a favor." "Name it." "I need you to witness some legal documents. Friday at 2 at Mr. Hendricks's office, and I need you not to ask too many questions just yet." A pause. "Jess, is something wrong?" came his response. "I promise I'll explain everything, but right now, I just need you to trust me." Another pause, longer this time. I could almost hear him thinking, weighing. "All right," he said finally, "I'll be there." "Thank you, George. It means a lot. Tom would want me to look out for you." My throat tightened. "I know." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Mark, about the little boy who used to crawl into bed with us during thunderstorms, the teenager who'd cried on my shoulder when his high school girlfriend broke his heart, the young man who'd called me from college every Sunday just to talk. When had he changed? Or had I just been too blind to see who he really was? At 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep. I went downstairs and pulled a new notebook from the drawer where I kept office supplies. On the first page, I wrote the date, Thursday, October 19th. Then, day 1 of documentation, Wednesday evening. Overheard Rosalia on phone, planning to move into my house. Quote, "She's getting old, she won't say no." Did not confront, served brownies instead. They suspected nothing. Thursday, 9:30 a.m. Met with Mr. Hendricks, initiated trust documents for main house. Second house to be confirmed as solely in my name. Thursday, 3 p.m. Changed locks on side door. Mark no longer has key access. He doesn't know yet. Thursday, 8 p.m. Called Uncle George. He agreed to witness documents Friday. I would document everything now. Every conversation, every text message, every request for money, every interaction where they showed their true intentions, Because if this went badly, if they tried to claim I was senile or manipulated, I wanted a paper trail that showed exactly who did what and when. I wasn't being paranoid. I was being prepared. Friday morning, I dressed carefully again. This time, I wore my best dress, the dark green one I usually saved for church. I wanted to look dignified, competent, clear-minded. Uncle George was already waiting in Mr. Hendricks's office when I arrived. "Jess," he said, standing to hug me. He smelled like Old Spice, just like Tom used to. "Thank you for coming." Always. Mr. Hendricks had the documents ready. He walked us through each one, explaining in plain language what every clause meant. The Jessica Caldwell Revocable Living Trust. I was named as trustee. The house on Maple Street, my home, was the primary asset. And there, in clear legal language, no person shall occupy the property without the written, notarized permission of the trustee. This includes but is not limited to family members, descendants and relatives by marriage. I signed. Uncle George signed as witness. Mr. Hendricks notarized. It took 45 minutes. When it was done, Mr. Hendricks handed me a folder containing copies of everything. "Keep these in a secure location, fireproof safe if you have one." "I do." Uncle George walked me to my car. "You going to tell me what this is about now?" I looked at him, Tom's brother, who had his same kind eyes, his same gentle way of asking hard questions. "Mark and Rosalia are planning to move into my house. I overheard Rosalia saying I'm too old to say no." I paused. They weren't going to ask. They were just going to tell me. His jaw tightened. "I'm handling it, George, but I needed you to know, in case things get difficult." He pulled me into a hug. "Tom always said you had steel in your spine. He'd be proud of you." I drove home with the documents on the passenger seat and Tom's voice in my head. "You're tougher than you think, Jess." "I hope so," I whispered to the empty car. "I really hope so." That night, I opened my laptop. I'd never been much for social media. I had a Facebook account I barely used, mostly just to see photos of Mark. But now I had a reason to look more carefully. I pulled up Mark's page first, scrolled through 2 weeks of posts. 5 days ago, landlord problems. Anyone know a good tenant rights lawyer? 3 days ago, a shared article titled, "Why Multi-Generational Living is Making a Comeback." Then I switched to Rosalia's Instagram. 2 weeks ago, a photo of her and Mark standing in front of a large house with a "for sale" sign. Caption, "Dreaming of the day we have space like this." Goals, Chatta future home. I scrolled through the comments, 23 of them. Most were generic well wishes, but one made my heart stop. Mark's cousin Linda had commented, "Your MIL's house is huge, isn't it? Could you stay there while you save up?" Rosalia's response, "We're actually thinking about that." I took a screenshot, saved it in a new folder on my desktop. Evidence. I kept scrolling, kept screenshotting, kept saving. A week ago, Rosalia had shared a quote graphic, "Family takes care of family. That's what makes us strong." 4 days ago, Mark had posted a photo of their cramped apartment with the caption, "Counting down the days until we have more space." They weren't just planning this, they were preparing their social media followers for the announcement, building a narrative that would make them look like devoted children caring for aging mom, not entitled "Adults Taking Advantage." I closed the laptop and updated my journal. Friday, October 20th. Documents signed and notarized. House protected. Locks changed. Social media evidence collected showing they've been planning this for at least 2 weeks, possibly longer. They're building a public narrative of needing space and family taking care of family. They haven't asked me. They're just assuming. I closed the notebook and sat in the quiet kitchen. The war had begun, but they didn't know it yet. While Rosalia was making plans to move into my house, I was building a wall of paper between us. Legal documents, changed locks, witness signatures, screenshot evidence. They thought they were playing chess. They didn't realize I'd already captured their queen. The week that followed was surreal. Mark called on Saturday morning, casual and cheerful. "Hey, Mom, what are you up to?" "Oh, just some gardening. The mums needed deadheading." "Cool. Hey, we were thinking about coming over for dinner tomorrow, Sunday around 6? My hand tightened on the phone. "Of course, honey. I'd love that." "Awesome. Love you, Mom." "Love you too." I stood in my garden with the phone still in my hand, surrounded by yellow and rust-colored mums, and felt something cold settle in my chest. They were coming for reconnaissance. Sunday dinner was a study in observation. I made pot roast again, Mark's favorite. I set the table with the everyday dishes. I lit candles. When they arrived, I watched them with new eyes. Rosalia walked through my living room slowly, her gaze lingering on the furniture arrangement. "Have you thought about rearranging this space, Mom? If you move the couch over there, you'd have so much more room." "I like it where it is," I said mildly. Mark wandered upstairs, said he needed to use the bathroom, though there was a perfectly good one downstairs. He was gone for almost 10 minutes. When he came back down, he said, "The guest room looks nice, Mom. Have you been using it for anything?" "Just storage." "Why?" "No reason. Just noticed it's pretty spacious up there." Measuring spaces, I thought. They're already planning where their furniture will go. Over dinner, Rosalia was especially sweet. "This pot roast is amazing, Mom. You have to teach me how to make it." She'd never asked for a recipe before, in 3 years. "It's really simple," I said. "I can write it down for you. You're so good to us." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I hope you know how much we appreciate everything you do. You're like a second mom to me." That voice, sweet, syrupy, the same tone from the phone call. I smiled. "That's nice to hear, dear." Mark launched into complaints about their landlord. He gave us notice that the rent's going up $200 a month. $200, that's insane. "That does sound like a lot," I said, passing the potatoes. "We can barely afford what we're paying now," Rosalia added. "And when we look at other places, they're all even more expensive." They were building the case, laying the groundwork. I asked questions, playing innocent. "Have you looked at places farther out?" "Sometimes the rent is more reasonable outside the city." "But then the commute," Mark said. "Gas prices are crazy, too." That is tricky." Rosalia leaned forward. "We've been thinking that what we really need is time to save up for a down payment. Once we own something, we won't have to deal with landlords and rent increases." "That's smart thinking," I said. "But it's hard to save when rent takes up most of our income." Mark added. I just nodded. Let them talk themselves in circles. When they left that night, Rosalia hugged me extra long. "Thank you for being such an amazing mother-in-law. We're so lucky to have you." Lucky. There was that word again. On Monday, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mrs. Caldwell, this is Derek Manning from Highland Rentals. I'm calling because your son Mark listed you as a reference for a rental application." My heart skipped. "He did?" "Yes, ma'am. He and his wife are applying for a 2-bedroom unit in our complex. I just need to verify. Have you agreed to co-sign their lease?" "I have not." A pause. "Oh, well, he indicated on the application that you'd be willing to co-sign if needed." "Mr. Manning, I'm not willing to co-sign. Please remove my name from any paperwork." "Of course, ma'am. Sorry for the confusion." After I hung up, I immediately opened my journal and wrote, Monday, October 23rd. Rental company called asking about co-signing lease for Mark and Rosalia. I did not agree to this. Mark put my name on application without permission. They're not just planning to move into my house. They're using my name without asking. Wednesday evening. I met my friend Martha for church committee meeting. Martha had known me for 15 years since she'd moved to town and started attending our church. She was one of those women who noticed everything, not in a gossipy way, but in a genuinely caring way. After the meeting, she pulled me aside. Jessica, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you feeling all right? You seem, I don't know, different lately, quieter. I managed to smile. I'm fine, Martha. Just dealing with some family things. Her eyes sharpened. Mark and Rosalia? What makes you say that? Because I saw Rosalia at the grocery store yesterday, and when I asked how you were doing, she said something odd. She said, "Oh, Mom's doing great. We'll be seeing a lot more of her soon." My stomach dropped. She said that? I thought maybe you were planning a trip together or something, but the way she said it... Martha trailed off, studying my face. What's going on, Jess? I glanced around the church hall. We were alone. I'm just learning who people really are, I said carefully. It's enlightening, painful but enlightening. Martha squeezed my arm. If you need to talk, I'm here. I know, thank you. Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from Rosalia. Hey, Mom. Emergency. Car repair came to $450 and we're short. Can you transfer us $300? We'll pay you back next month. I stared at that text for a long time. 3 years of these messages. 3 years of emergencies. And we'll pay you back and heart emojis. I'd always responded within an hour. Always transferred the money, no questions asked. Not this time. I typed, "Let me check my budget and get back to you." I hit send. 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally. Okay, but we kind of need to know soon. The car's at the shop. I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, Mark called. Hey, Mom! Did you see Rosalia's text? I did. So, can you help us out? It's kind of urgent. I said I need to check my budget, Mark. I have my own expenses. A pause. I could hear his surprise. Right, yeah, of course. It's just, you usually don't mind helping. I don't mind, but I need to be responsible about my own finances. Another pause, longer this time. Okay. Well, let us know. Like today, if possible. I'll let you know when I've had a chance to review my accounts. Mom, is everything okay? Everything's fine, honey. I just need to be more careful with money at my age. At my age? I used their own words against them. Oh, okay. Well, talk to you later then. Goodbye, Mark. I hung up and immediately wrote in my journal, Thursday, October 26th. Rosalia texted requesting $300 for car repair. I did not immediately agree. Mark called, surprised by my hesitation. I maintained boundary. First time in 3 years I've said anything other than yes. 20 minutes later, another text from Rosalia. Never mind about the money, Mom. Mark's gonna take out a credit card for it. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. The guilt trip was obvious. The manipulation clear. I didn't respond. That evening, alone in my kitchen, I thought about all the times I'd said yes. Yes to groceries, yes to car repairs. Yes to anniversary dinners and birthday presents and emergencies that came every few weeks like clockwork. I'd said yes because I thought that's what love looked like, because I was afraid that saying no would mean losing my son. But I'd already lost him. I'd lost him the moment he stopped seeing me as his mother and started seeing me as a resource. I'd lost him the moment Rosalia called me old on that phone call, and he didn't defend me. I'd lost him the moment they decided to move into my house without asking, and now I was just waiting for them to realize I wasn't going to be managed. I opened my laptop and checked their social media again. Rosalia had posted earlier that day, "When life gives you unexpected car problems." Blessed to have family support, even though I hadn't given them the money. She was performing for her audience, building sympathy, creating a narrative where she was the struggling young woman and I was the wealthy older woman who helped. Except now, I wasn't helping, and I wondered how long it would take before they stopped performing and started demanding. Friday evening, Mark called. "Hey, Mom, so our landlord officially gave us notice. We have to be out by the end of next month." "I'm sorry to hear that, honey." "Yeah, it sucks. We've been looking at places, but everything is either too expensive or in a bad neighborhood. That must be stressful." "It is, really stressful." A pause. "We were actually wondering if we could talk to you about something, in person, this weekend?" Here it was, the ask, the demand disguised as a conversation. "Sure," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "When were you thinking?" "How about Sunday? We could come over around 2? "That works." "Great. See you then. Love you, Mom." "Love you too." After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and felt my heart hammering in my chest. This was it. Sunday, 2 o'clock. They were going to tell me they were moving in, and I was going to tell them no. I opened my journal and wrote, Friday, October 27th. Mark called to say landlord gave official notice, asked to meet Sunday to talk about something. This is when they'll ask. Tell me they're moving in. I've had 10 days to prepare. I'm ready. I closed the notebook and looked around my kitchen, my house, the home I'd fought to keep after Tom died, the place I'd worked 2 jobs to maintain, the sanctuary I'd built with my own hands and my own money. They thought they could just take it. They thought I was too old, too tired, too conditioned to say yes to refuse them. They were about to learn something Tom knew all along. I have a spine of steel, and on Sunday they were going to feel it. Sunday morning, I cleaned the house, not because it was dirty. I'd cleaned 2 days ago. But I needed something to do with my hands, needed to move, needed to stop my mind from racing through every possible version of the conversation to come. I dusted, I vacuumed, I scrubbed the kitchen sink until it gleamed. At noon, I made lunch, chicken salad sandwiches, pasta salad, fresh fruit. I set the table with my everyday dishes and cloth napkins. I wanted everything to look normal, comfortable, welcoming. I wanted them to walk in thinking this would be easy. At 1:55, I heard a car in the driveway. I checked my reflection in the hallway mirror. I dressed carefully. Comfortable slacks, a soft sweater, my hair styled. I looked like someone's kind mother, someone who would say yes to her only child. Perfect. The doorbell rang. I took a deep breath, smoothed my hands down my slacks, and opened the door. "Hi," I smiled, genuine warmth in my voice. Come in, come in." Mark hugged me. He smelled like his father's cologne. He'd started wearing it a year ago, said it made him feel connected to Dad. Rosalia kissed my cheek. "Something smells good." "I made lunch. I thought we could eat first, then talk." "That's perfect," Mark said, but he looked nervous, kept glancing at Rosalia. They followed me to the kitchen, sat at the table, accepted food they barely touched. The conversation was stilted. Weather, traffic, a movie they'd seen. Nobody mentioned what we were really here to talk about. Finally, after I'd cleared the plates and poured coffee, Mark cleared his throat. "So, Mom, we wanted to talk to you about our situation." I sat down, folded my hands on the table, looked at my son with an expression of mild curiosity. Of course. What's on your mind? He glanced at Rosalia again. She gave him an encouraging nod. Like I mentioned on the phone, our landlord is forcing us out. We have to be out by November 30th. Right, you said that. And we've been looking everywhere. I mean, everywhere. But the rental market is insane right now. He ran his hand through his hair, nervous gesture, just like Tom used to do. Everything decent is at least $1,800 a month, and that's for places way smaller than what we have now. I nodded sympathetically, said nothing. Rosalia jumped in, her voice taking on that sweet, reasonable tone I'd learned to recognize. We've been talking about it a lot, and we've realized that what we really need is time. Time to save up for a down payment so we can buy our own place and stop throwing money away on rent. That makes sense, I said neutrally. Right, exactly. Mark leaned forward. So we were thinking, well, we were hoping that maybe we could stay here. With you, just temporarily. Temporarily, I repeated, keeping my face carefully neutral. Yes, just until we save enough for a down payment. Maybe 6 months? A year at most? Rosalia nodded enthusiastically. And it wouldn't be like we're freeloading or anything. We'd help with bills. We'd do grocery shopping, house repairs, yard work. You wouldn't have to do everything yourself anymore. We'd be helping you as much as you'd be helping us, Mark added. It would be good for everyone. I took a sip of my coffee, set the cup down carefully in its saucer. How long would you need? I asked, my voice mild, curious. Like we said, maybe 6 months to a year, Mark said quickly. Once we save up $20,000 for a down payment, we can get a decent mortgage. And you think you can save $20,000 in a year? They exchanged another glance. Maybe 18 months, Rosalia said. 2 years at the outside? So 2 years, minimum. Well, if we're being realistic, Mark said, but hopefully less. Where would you put your things? We don't have that much stuff, Rosalia said. The second bedroom upstairs would be perfect for us, and maybe we could use the basement for storage. I noticed she said the second bedroom, not the guest room. She'd already mentally moved in. And what about when I have other guests? I asked. My sister visits sometimes. Uncle George stays over when it snows. Oh, we'd work around that, Rosalia said breezily. We're flexible. You want me to ask my family to work around your schedule? In my house? Mark shifted uncomfortably. Mom, we just meant, what about privacy? I continued, still in that mild, curious tone. I live alone by choice. I like my space, my routine. We'd stay out of your way, Mark said. You wouldn't even know we were here. I'd absolutely know you were here. You'd be living in my house. Rosalia's smile was starting to look strained. Mom, I think you're overthinking this. It's just family helping family. Is it? Of course it is. We're not strangers. We're your son and daughter-in-law. I looked at her for a long moment. When were you planning to ask me this? What do you mean? Mark said. We're asking you now. No, I said quietly. When were you originally planning to ask? Before or after your landlord gave you notice? Silence. Because it seems like you've been thinking about this for a while, I continued. The comments about my guest room being spacious, Rosalia talking about rearranging my furniture, your social media posts about needing more space. Mark's face went pale. Mom, I don't know what you... And then there was the rental application, I interrupted. The one where you listed me as a co-signer without asking. That was just in case, he stammered. We weren't going to use it. You put my name on legal documents without my permission. Rosalia's mask was slipping. I could see frustration replacing the sweetness. We were just covering our bases. It's not a big deal. It's a very big deal. It's fraud. That's dramatic, she said, her voice sharp now. We're family. It's not like we're trying to steal from you. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the backyard where Tom had taught Mark to throw a baseball. Do you know what I was doing the day Tom died? I asked, not looking at them. Mom, what does that have to do with… Mark started. I was at work, at the library. Someone called from the hospital, told me to come quickly, but by the time I got there, he was gone. I turned to face them. And do you know what I was worried about? In the days after, I was worried about this house, about keeping it, about making sure Mark still had a home to come back to. Mom, I worked 2 jobs for years. I paid off your college so you'd never know what debt felt like. I gave you everything I had because that's what mothers do. I paused. But somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing sacrifice and started seeing weakness. That's not fair, Rosalia said. Isn't it? I looked at her directly. You think I'm old. You think I'm easy to convince. You think this house is just sitting here waiting for you to claim it. We never said that, Mark protested. You didn't have to say it. I walked back to the table and sat down, looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw the guilt written all over his face. Mark, I said quietly, when did you stop asking me for things and start assuming them? He opened his mouth, closed it, couldn't find an answer. This house is too big for you alone anyway, Rosalia said, and there was an edge in her voice now. The sweetness was gone. You're not getting any younger. What if something happens? What if you fall or get sick? Then I'll handle it, like I've been handling things for the past 12 years without a husband. But we could be here to help you, she pressed. Don't you want family around? I want family who sees me as family, not as a solution to their housing problem. Mark leaned forward, his voice pleading now. Mom, please, we really need this. The rent increase is real. We genuinely don't have anywhere else to go. You have the same place every other couple has when they can't afford their current apartment, a cheaper apartment, a roommate situation. Your parents' house, Rosalia's parents, not mine. Rosalia's face hardened. My parents don't have room. And I do? You have 3 bedrooms. That I use. For me, for my life, for the home I built. You're being selfish, Rosalia snapped. And there it was, the real her. No more sweetness, no more fake gratitude. Just entitlement, naked and ugly. I'm being selfish? I repeated softly. Yes. You're sitting here in this huge house all alone, while your only son is about to be homeless. You're not going to be homeless. You're going to be in a less convenient apartment. We can't afford. Then get second jobs, like I did when your husband's father died and left me with a mortgage I could barely pay. Mark stood up abruptly. Mom, this isn't like you. You've always helped us before. Why are you being like this now? And there it was. The assumption, the conditioning. I'd trained them, hadn't I? 3 years of always saying yes. 3 years of always giving in. 3 years of being the accommodating mother who never set boundaries. Of course, they expected me to say yes now. I'm not being like anything, Mark. I'm being myself. Maybe for the first time in 3 years. What's that supposed to mean? I stood up, walked to my purse, and pulled out my phone. Opened the photo gallery, found the screenshot I'd saved. This is from Rosalia's Instagram, I said, holding out the phone. 3 weeks ago. You two standing in front of a house for sale, dreaming about having space. And here in the comments, your cousin Linda asks if you could stay at my house while you save. And Rosalia's response, "We're actually thinking about that." Mark's face went white. 3 weeks ago, I continued, you were already planning this. Before your landlord gave notice. Before you looked everywhere for apartments. We were just exploring options, Rosalia said defensively. No, you were planning, and you did it without asking me. You made assumptions about my life, my house, my willingness to have you here. I walked to the living room, picked up my purse, and pulled out a folded piece of paper, the one I'd been carrying for days, waiting for this moment. Do you know what this is? I held it up. They stared. This is a receipt from the lawyer. I had some legal work done last week. What kind of legal work? Mark asked, his voice uncertain now. The kind that protects what's mine. The silence in the room was deafening. This house, I said quietly, is not available. Mark blinked. What? This house is not available for you to move into. Rosalia tried to smile, but it looked more like a grimace. Mom, I don't think you understand. We're not asking to buy it. We just need to stay here temporarily. I understand perfectly, and my answer is no. You're saying no. Mark's voice rose in disbelief. You're seriously saying no. I am. But we're family. Family asks. Family respects boundaries. Family doesn't make plans behind my back and then expect me to go along with them. Rosalia's eyes narrowed. What did you mean about legal work? I unfolded the paper, didn't show it to them, just held it like a shield. I moved this house into a living trust. I'm the sole trustee, and there's a clause, a very specific clause, that says no one can occupy this property without my written, notarized permission. The blood drained from Rosalia's face. You did what? Mark's voice was barely a whisper. I protected my assets from people who would take advantage of me. We're not taking advantage. Rosalia's voice was shrill now. We're your family. Are you? Because family doesn't put my name on rental applications without asking. Family doesn't post on social media about moving into my house before talking to me. Family doesn't stand in my living room and call me old and easy to manipulate. Rosalia froze. What are you talking about? Wednesday night, October 18th, you were on the phone. You thought I was upstairs. Understanding dawned on her face, followed immediately by panic. You said, and I quote, "We'll move into her house soon. Mark is her only child. She won't say no. She's getting old anyway." Mark turned to Rosalia. You said that. It wasn't, she stammered. You were plotting, I finished. In my house, on my phone call, planning my life without me. Mom, please, Mark said, his voice breaking. I didn't know she said that, I swear. But you were planning it too. Maybe with kinder words, but you were planning it. He couldn't deny it. I could see it in his eyes. You did this without talking to me? He said instead, pointing at the legal document in my hand. You went to a lawyer and put the house in a trust without even telling me? And there it was. The audacity. The absolute nerve. I looked at my son, my only child, the boy I'd raised alone, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, and I felt something break inside me. Not my heart. That had already broken. My patience. You planned to move into my house without talking to me, I said, my voice deadly calm. So yes. I protected my house without asking your permission. That's different. How? How is it different, Mark? Because I'm your son, and this is my house. We stared at each other across the kitchen table. 12 years of widowhood, 26 years of motherhood, all of it hanging in the air between us. Mom, he said finally, his voice small, please, We really don't have anywhere else to go. You have everywhere else to go, just not here. Rosalia stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I can't believe this. We've been nothing but good to you. We visit, we have dinner, we include you in our lives. You include me when you need something, I interrupted. Money, groceries, car repairs, emergency after emergency that somehow always needs my wallet to solve. We always said we'd pay you back. Did you? Even once? Silence. I didn't think so. Mark rubbed his face with both hands. Mom, I don't understand. You've always helped us. Why is this different? Because this isn't help. This is taking. There's a difference. We're not trying to take anything. You're trying to take my home, my space, my independence, my peace. I paused. And you're trying to do it without even asking if I want you here. Do you? Mark asked quietly. Want us here? I looked at him, really looked at him, at the stranger with my late husband's face. No, I said, I don't. The word hung in the air like smoke. Rosalia grabbed her purse. This is ridiculous. We don't have to listen to this. Come on, Mark. But Mark just stood there, staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You've changed, he said finally. No, I said. I've just stopped pretending. He flinched like I'd slapped him. We should go, Rosalia said, her voice tight with fury. Mark nodded slowly, started toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Mom, please think about this. We're about to be homeless. You're about to be inconvenienced, I corrected. There's a difference. What if we promise to follow your rules, to stay out of your way, to pay rent? The answer is still no. But why? His voice cracked. Give me one good reason why we can't stay here. I walked to where he stood by the door, looked up at my son, taller than his father, but with Tom's same eyes. Because I don't trust you anymore, I said quietly. Because you looked at your aging mother and saw real estate. Because you let your wife call me old and manageable and didn't defend me. Because you spent 3 years conditioning me to always say yes, and now you can't handle the word no. His eyes filled with tears. That's not fair. Fair? I almost laughed. I worked 2 jobs so you could have 1 childhood. I gave you a debt-free education while going into debt myself. I've given you thousands of dollars over the past 3 years. And you show up at my house with luggage in your car, expecting me to hand over my home. We don't have luggage in the car, he said. I walked to the window, pointed at their car parked in my driveway. There, clearly visible through the back window, were 2 large suitcases and several boxes. Oh my God, I whispered. You weren't asking. You were telling. Mark's face went scarlet. We just thought, if you said yes, we could just start moving some stuff. Get out. Mom, get out of my house. Please, just listen. Get out. My voice rang through the kitchen, surprising all of us. I never yelled, never raised my voice. Not in all the years since Tom died, not through all the struggles and the grief and the loneliness. But I was yelling now. Mark grabbed his jacket. Rosalia was already at the door, her face twisted with rage. You'll regret this, she hissed at me. When you're old and sick and alone, you'll regret pushing us away. I'm already alone, I said. I've been alone since Tom died. The only difference is now I'm not pretending I have family who cares about me. That's not true, Mark said desperately. I love you, Mom. Do you? Or do you love what I can do for you? He opened his mouth, closed it. Couldn't answer, because we both knew the truth. Goodbye, Mark, I said quietly. Rosalia. They walked out. I watched from the window as they got in their car, saw them arguing, Mark's hands gesturing wildly, Rosalia's face furious and red. Then they drove away, and I stood in my kitchen, in my house, in the home I'd fought to keep, and I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, no doubt, just exhaustion. I walked to the kitchen table and sat down heavily, looked at the remains of lunch, the sandwiches they'd barely touched, the coffee gone cold in their cups. Then I noticed something on Mark's chair, a piece of paper. I picked it up, unfolded it. It was a rental agreement, pre-filled with my address, with Mark and Rosalia's names as tenants, with a blank space for my signature as landlord. They'd brought a rental agreement to my house, expecting me to sign over my home. I stared at that paper for a long time. Then I walked to my desk, pulled out my journal, and wrote, Sunday, October 29th, 2 p.m. Mark and Rosalia arrived to ask about moving in. Had luggage and boxes in car. Brought pre-filled rental agreement expecting me to sign. I refused. Told them about the trust. They were shocked, angry. Rosalia made threats about me being old and alone. Mark asked if I loved him. I asked if he loved me or what I could do for him. He couldn't answer. They left. I looked at my son and saw a stranger with my face. The war is no longer silent. I closed the notebook and sat in the quiet house. My house, mine. And I had never felt more certain that I'd done the right thing. They called 17 times that night. I didn't answer. The first call came 10 minutes after they left. Mark. I let it ring through to voicemail. Mom, please pick up. We need to talk about this, please. Delete. 30 minutes later, Rosalia called. Hi, Mom. I think we all got a little emotional earlier. Can we just talk? Please call me back. Delete. Then Mark again. Then Rosalia. Then Mark. Mark. Rosalia. Mark. I turned my phone on silent and placed it face down on the kitchen counter. At 9 p.m., someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole. Mark. I didn't open it. Mom, I know you're in there. Your car's in the driveway. Please just talk to me. I stood on the other side of the door, my hand resting on the new lock Charlie had installed, and said nothing. Mom, please. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry we brought the luggage. I'm sorry about the rental agreement. Rosalia thought, never mind what she thought. It was stupid. But we really need help. Please. Silence. Fine, he said finally, his voice hardening. Be that way. But you're going to have to talk to me eventually. I'm your son. I heard his footsteps retreat, his car start. Drive away. I walked back to the kitchen and checked my phone. 3 new text messages. Mark. Mom, we can't afford anywhere decent. You're really going to let us end up in some dangerous neighborhood? Rosalia? I don't understand why you're being so cruel. We've always been there for you. Mark. I never thought my own mother would abandon me like this. Abandon. The word made something hot and angry rise in my chest. I typed a response. I raised you alone after your father died. I worked 2 jobs to keep this house. I paid for your entire college education. I have given you thousands of dollars over 3 years. I have never once abandoned you, but I will not hand over my home to people who plan to take it without asking. This is not abandonment. This is boundaries. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. 3 dots appeared immediately. Mark. So that's it? You're just done with us? I typed back. I'm done being treated like a piggy bank with a spare room. When you're ready to have a relationship with me that isn't based on what I can give you, we can talk. Mark. Wow. Mark. Just wow. Mark. I guess I don't know you anymore. I stared at that last message for a long time. Then I typed, the feeling is mutual. Monday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. like always, made coffee. Sat at my kitchen table and watched the sunrise through the window. My phone was full of notifications, 4 missed calls from Mark, 2 from Rosalia, 6 text messages. I deleted them all without reading. Then I called Mr. Hendricks. "Jessica," he answered on the second ring. "How did it go?" "They brought luggage," I said, "and a pre-filled rental agreement with my address on it." A long exhale. "I see. They expected me to just sign over my house." "And you told them no." "I did. I told them about the trust. They're not happy." "I imagine they're not. Are you all right?" I thought about that. Was I all right? "I'm tired," I said honestly, "but I'm also clear. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense." "Jessica, you should know there's a possibility they might try to challenge the trust, claim undue influence or diminished capacity." My stomach dropped. "Can they do that?" "They can try. They won't succeed. You had an independent witness who's known you for decades. The documents are airtight. But I want you to be prepared for the possibility that they might make it ugly." "Uglier than showing up with luggage?" "Unfortunately, yes." "What should I do?" "Document everything. Every conversation, every text message, every interaction. Keep a contemporaneous record. And don't engage emotionally. If they contact you with threats or accusations, don't respond. Forward them to me." "Okay. And Jessica?" "You did the right thing. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you did." After we hung up, I sat with my cooling coffee and tried to believe him. Tuesday afternoon, Uncle George called. "Jess, I ran into Martha at the hardware store. She said Mark's been calling around asking people to talk to you. Says you've locked him out and won't listen to reason." My jaw tightened. He's building a narrative. That's what I figured. What really happened? So I told him. Everything. The phone call I'd overheard, the trust documents, the Sunday ambush with luggage and a rental agreement. When I finished, Uncle George was quiet for a long moment. "Tom would be proud of you," he said finally. My eyes burned. "Would he?" "Absolutely. He always said you were the strongest person he knew, said you had steel hidden under all that softness." He paused. "Mark's become entitled, Jess. Tom wouldn't have liked what his son turned into." I keep thinking, did I do this? Did I create this by always saying yes? You were being a good mother. They took advantage of that. That's on them, not you. Mark says I've changed. You haven't changed. You've just stopped letting them walk all over you. After we hung up, I felt marginally better, but only marginally. Wednesday morning, I got an email from Rosalia's personal account, not Mark's. The subject line, "Please read." From the heart against my better judgment, I opened it. "Dear Mom Jessica, I'm writing because I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. When I was on the phone that day, I didn't mean anything hurtful. I was just talking to my friend about how close we are to you and how I knew you'd want to help us in our time of need. Maybe my words came out wrong, but my heart was in the right place. I love you like a second mother. Mark loves you more than anything. We would never try to take your house. We just wanted to be closer to you to help you out as much as you'd be helping us. I know Sunday got emotional. We shouldn't have brought the luggage or that rental agreement. That was presumptuous, and I apologize. We were just so stressed about being homeless that we weren't thinking clearly. Please give us another chance. We promise we'll follow any rules you set. We'll pay rent if you want. We'll sign a contract limiting our stay. Whatever you need. We're family. Families forgive each other. Please don't let this destroy our relationship. With love, Rosalia." I read it 3 times. It was masterful, really. The apology that wasn't really an apology. the reframing of my boundaries as misunderstanding, the appeal to family and forgiveness. And underneath it all, the same message: let us move in. I forwarded it to Mr. Hendricks with a note. Is this something I should respond to? His reply came within the hour. Absolutely not. This is manipulation disguised as reconciliation. Don't engage. I deleted the email. Thursday evening, Martha called. Jessica, I need to tell you something, and I don't want to upset you, but I think you should know. My heart sank. What is it? Rosalia came to the church committee meeting today. She hasn't been in months, but she showed up. And? She told everyone that you've locked Mark out of the house and refused to help him even though he's about to be homeless. She was crying, Jess. She made it sound like you've abandoned them. I closed my eyes. Did anyone believe her? Some people looked concerned, but I spoke up. I said I didn't know the whole story, but that I knew you, and whatever you decided, I was sure you had good reasons. What did she say? She said you'd changed since Tom died, that you've become paranoid and bitter and don't trust anyone. The words hit like physical blows. I'm sorry, Jess. I thought you should know what she's saying. Thank you for telling me. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and let myself feel it. The hurt, the betrayal, the sheer audacity of Rosalia standing in my church, the church where I'd been a member for 15 years, and painting me as the villain. Then I opened my laptop. I wrote a careful email to Pastor Williams, the head of our church. Dear Pastor Williams, I understand that Rosalia came to the committee meeting and shared concerns about my relationship with Mark. I want to respect everyone's privacy, but I also want to ensure you have accurate information. My son and daughter-in-law asked to move into my home. I declined. They brought luggage and a pre-filled rental agreement without discussing it with me first. I have not locked Mark out. I simply set a boundary. I have been helping them financially for 3 years and will continue to love them, but I cannot allow them to move into my home. If you'd like to discuss this further, I'm happy to meet with you. Grace and peace, Jessica Caldwell. I hit send before I could overthink it. Friday morning, Mark showed up at my door again. I saw him through the peephole. He looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, clothes rumpled. Mom, please, I know you're in there. Just open the door. I stood on the other side, hand on my new lock, and said nothing. Fine. I'll just talk through the door then. His voice was strained. We found an apartment. It's in a bad part of town. There are drug deals on the corner. The building has roaches, but it's all we can afford. Silence. If something happens to us, if we get mugged, if there's a break-in, it'll be on you. You could have helped us. You could have given us time to find something decent, but you chose your house over your own son's safety. The manipulation was so transparent, it almost made me laugh. Almost. I know you can hear me, he continued. I know you're standing right there, and I want you to know. This is your choice. You're choosing to let us live in danger. You're choosing your pride over your family. I waited until I heard his footsteps retreat, his car start and drive away. Then I walked to my desk and wrote in my journal, Friday, November 3rd. Mark came to the door. Didn't answer. He tried to manipulate me by describing their new apartment as dangerous, tried to make me feel responsible for their safety, attempting to create guilt where there should be none. I will not be moved. I closed the journal and looked around my quiet, peaceful house. My house. The one I'd fought to keep. The one I'd worked 2 jobs to maintain. The one I'd protected from people who wanted to take it. And I realized something. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Saturday morning, I was in my garden when my phone rang. Rosalia. I almost didn't answer, but something, curiosity maybe, or the need to know what was coming next, made me accept the call. Hello? Mom? Her voice was different now. No sweetness, no pretense, just cold, hard determination. We need to talk. We've talked. No, you talked. You made your decision without giving us a real chance to explain. You brought luggage and a rental agreement to my house. What else was there to explain? That we're desperate. Her voice rose. That we're scared. That we thought our family would help us in our time of need. I've helped you for 3 years, Rosalia. Money isn't the same as being there for us. Mark is your only son. Don't you care what happens to him? I stood up from the flower bed, brushed dirt from my knees. Of course I care. Then why are you doing this? Why are you sitting in that huge house all alone when we need you? Because it's my house, not yours. That's so selfish. You have 3 bedrooms. 3. And you're using one of them for what? Storage? What I use my bedrooms for is my business. We're your family. We should be your business. I walked toward the house, phone pressed to my ear. Rosalia, I'm going to say this once more and then I'm done. The answer is no. You cannot move into my house. Not temporarily, not permanently. Not ever. Fine. Her voice turned icy. Then Mark and I will figure it out ourselves. But don't expect us to come around anymore. Don't expect Sunday dinners or holiday visits. If you won't help us when we really need it, then you don't get to have a relationship with us when it's convenient for you. Are you threatening me with my own son? I'm telling you the consequences of your choices. Something snapped inside me. The patience I'd been holding on to, the hope that maybe Mark would come to his senses. It all shattered. You know what, Rosalia? I overheard your phone call. I heard every word. And the thing that struck me most wasn't the planning or the scheming. It was how casual you were about it. How certain you were that I'd just roll over and let you do whatever you wanted. I don't know what you think you heard. You said I was getting old. You said I wouldn't say no. You said Mark was my only child, like that was some kind of weapon you could use against me. Silence on the other end. And the worst part, I continued, you were right about all of it. I am getting older. Mark is my only child. And for 3 years, I didn't say no. Not once. I conditioned you to expect compliance. Mom, but here's what you forgot. My voice was steel now. Old doesn't mean stupid. Generous doesn't mean weak. And being someone's only child doesn't give you the right to their entire life. We're about to be homeless. You're about to be uncomfortable. There's a difference. Where are we supposed to go? Her voice cracked. And for the first time, I heard real fear underneath the anger. The apartment we found, it's terrible, Mom. It's actually dangerous. There are break-ins all the time. The locks don't work properly. I'm scared. For a moment, just a moment, I wavered. Then I remembered the luggage in the car, the rental agreement with my address, the 3 years of taking and the 0 years of gratitude. You'll go where every married couple goes when they need housing, I said quietly. To the place they can afford. Maybe you'll get roommates. Maybe you'll move farther out where rent is cheaper. Maybe Rosalia, your parents can help. My parents can't. Then you'll figure it out like I figured it out when Tom died and left me with a mortgage I could barely afford. Like millions of people figure it out every day. But you don't have to figure it out, she shouted. You have this huge house just sitting here. You're being cruel for no reason. I'm not being cruel. I'm being boundaried. If you can't tell the difference, that's not my problem. Mark was right about you. You have changed. You're not the woman who raised him. You're absolutely right, I said. The woman who raised him would have said yes. She would have opened her home and her wallet and asked for nothing in return. She would have let you move in and probably would have ended up moving out of her own house to give you space. Then why? Because that woman got walked all over for 3 years. That woman heard her daughter-in-law call her old and manageable. That woman watched her son stop asking and start assuming. And that woman finally woke up. I walked into my kitchen, looked around at my home, my safe, peaceful home, and felt something settle in my chest. Certainty. Goodbye, Rosalia. Wait, I hung up. 3 seconds later, Mark called. I answered. Mom, what did you say to Rosalia? She's crying. I told her the truth. What truth? That you don't care if we end up in a dangerous neighborhood? That you value your empty house more than your son's safety? Mark, stop. Just stop with the manipulation. I'm not manipulating. I'm stating facts. No, you're trying to make me feel guilty for having boundaries. You're trying to make me responsible for your housing situation. You're trying to punish me for saying no. You're my mother. You're supposed to help me. I've helped you for 28 years. I'm still helping you. I'm teaching you that actions have consequences, that you can't scheme behind someone's back and then get upset when they protect themselves. This is insane. You're acting like we're criminals because we asked to stay with you. You didn't ask. You planned. You brought luggage. You had a rental agreement with my address already filled in. You put my name on rental applications without permission. You posted on social media about moving in before talking to me. That's not asking, Mark. That's assuming. Because we're family. We're supposed to be able to count on each other. Then why can't I count on you to respect my decisions? Why can't I count on you to accept no as an answer? Why can't I count on you to treat me like a person instead of a housing solution? Because you're being unreasonable. I'm being unreasonable? Let me ask you something, Mark. When's the last time you called me just to talk? Not to ask for money or complain about your landlord or drop hints about needing space. When's the last time you called because you missed me? Silence. I can't remember either, I said quietly. That's not fair, isn't it? Name one time in the past year you've done something for me. One time you've helped me. One time you've given instead of taken. More silence. That's what I thought. Mom, please. His voice broke. I don't understand why you're doing this. We really need help. And you have the means to help us. Why won't you? Because helping you move into my house isn't help. It's enabling. It's letting you avoid the consequences of your own decisions. It's teaching you that if you pressure me enough, I'll always give in. That's not what this is. Then what is it? Explain it to me. Make me understand why 2 healthy adults in their late 20s with jobs and no children can't afford to rent an apartment without moving into someone else's house. Because everything is expensive. Because wages haven't kept up with rent. Because it's impossible to save when every dollar goes to bills. I know. I lived it. After your father died. That's exactly what I faced. And I worked 2 jobs. I lived on cereal for dinner. I made it work because I had to. So we're just supposed to struggle because you struggled? No, you're supposed to struggle because you're adults and that's part of life. You're supposed to figure it out because that's what grown-ups do. And you're supposed to stop expecting your mother to fix all your problems. I can't believe you're saying this. I can't believe I didn't say it 3 years ago. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, if you won't let us stay at your house, can you at least help us with the deposit on this apartment? It's first, last, and security, $3,600. We don't have it. And there it was, the real ask, the fallback position. No, Mom, please, just this once. We'll pay you back. You've never paid me back, not once in 3 years. This is different. How? Because we really need it. Because we're desperate. You've been desperate every other time, too. The grocery money, the car repair, the anniversary dinner, the birthday presents, emergency after emergency that somehow always needed my wallet. That was different. How, Mark? Tell me how it's different. He couldn't. I'm done, I said quietly. I'm done being your ATM. I'm done being your backup plan. I'm done being the person you only call when you need something. So that's it? You're just cutting us off? I'm not cutting you off. I'm setting boundaries. When you're ready to have a relationship with me that isn't based on what I can give you, my door is open, but my wallet is closed, and my house is not available. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but I doubt it. Don't call me when you're old and alone and need someone to take care of you. The threat hung in the air between us. Mark, I said very calmly, I've been alone since your father died. I've been taking care of myself for 12 years. I don't need you to take care of me. I need you to respect me. And until you can do that, we have nothing more to discuss. I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. But I felt clear. For the first time in 3 years, I felt completely, utterly clear. Sunday afternoon, they came back. Both of them. I saw them pull up through my living room window. I didn't answer the door. They knocked. They rang the bell. They called my phone. I sat in my kitchen with a cup of tea and waited for them to leave. After 20 minutes, Rosalia shouted through the door, "Fine, have it your way. But you should know, we're moving into that terrible apartment tomorrow. If anything happens to us, it's on you." I heard their car doors slam, the engine start, then Mark's voice one more time. "Where will we go, Mom?" You're really going to make us live like this? And something in me, some last thread of patience or hope or maternal instinct, snapped completely. I walked to the door, unlocked it, opened it wide. They both turned, hope lighting up their faces. "You know what's interesting?" I said, my voice calm and cold. "You two were so busy planning to take the house you knew about, you forgot to ask yourself a simple question." They stared at me. "What question?" Rosalia asked warily. I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "How many houses does she have?" Confusion crossed Mark's face. "What? You assumed I had one house? This house, the one you grew up in, the one you've been scheming to move into. Mom, what are you talking about?" "I own 2 houses, Mark." Complete shocked silence. "You... what?" Rosalia's voice was barely a whisper. 2 houses. I've owned the second one for 6 years, since 2 years after your father died. A nice little place about 40 minutes from here. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, quiet neighborhood. Mark's mouth opened and closed. "You never told me." "You never asked. I mentioned I was seeing a realtor. You weren't paying attention." "But you have another house." Rosalia looked like I'd slapped her. "This whole time?" "This whole time." "So we could have stayed there?" Mark's voice rose in disbelief and hope. "We could." "No." The hope died. "What?" "No, you cannot stay there. That house is rented to a lovely young couple, teachers. They asked permission, they provided references, they signed a lease, they pay their rent on time. They send me Christmas cards." I let that sink in for a moment. You see the difference? They asked. They respected my property. They treated me like a landlord, not a Mark. Rosalia's face was red now. You're saying you'd rather rent to strangers than let your own family stay there? I'm saying I rent to people who respect me, and right now my tenants respect me more than you do. This is unbelievable, Mark said. You had a solution this whole time and you didn't tell us. It's not a solution. It's my property, my investment, my asset, not yours. But we're family. Family doesn't scheme. Family doesn't plan behind your back. Family doesn't call you old and manageable and assume you'll roll over. Rosalia's eyes were wild now. So what? You're just going to watch us move into a roach-infested apartment when you have a perfectly good house sitting there? It's not sitting there. It's generating income. Income that goes toward my retirement. The retirement your husband's father didn't leave me because the insurance lapsed. You're punishing us, Mark said, his voice breaking. You're punishing us because of what Rosalia said on the phone. No, I'm protecting myself from people who see me as an asset instead of a person. You brought luggage to my house expecting to move in without asking. You put my name on legal documents without permission. You posted on social media about moving in before talking to me. You've taken thousands of dollars from me and never paid back a cent. Don't tell me you see me as a person. So that's it? Rosalia's voice was shrill now. We're just supposed to struggle while you sit in your big house and count your properties? You're supposed to live within your means, like adults, like everyone else. This is cruel. No. Cruel was calling me old and easy to manipulate in my own kitchen. Cruel was planning to take my house without asking. Cruel was trying to guilt me by describing your apartment as dangerous. I stepped back, hand on the door. Here's what you need to understand. I own 2 houses. I worked my entire adult life for them. I sacrificed for them. I went into debt for your education so I could afford to buy the second one later. Both of those houses are mine, not yours, not family property. Mine. Mark looked like he was going to cry. Mom, please. And next time you want to move into someone's house, I continued, my voice quiet and steady, make sure you know how many houses she has. Because you two were so busy planning to take the one you knew about, you never stopped to think that maybe, just maybe, I was smarter than you gave me credit for. So we get nothing? Rosalia's voice dripped with venom. After everything Mark has been to you, after being your only son, we get nothing? You get exactly what you deserve. The same chance I had when Tom died. The chance to figure it out yourselves. The chance to stand on your own 2 feet. The chance to learn that you can't manipulate people into giving you what you want. I started to close the door. Mom! Mark's voice was desperate now. Please, at least help us with the deposit, just $3,600. That's nothing to you. I paused. You're right, I said. It is nothing to me. I have savings. I have retirement funds. I have 2 properties generating value. And I have all of that because I made smart decisions and hard choices and didn't expect anyone else to bail me out. So you won't help us? I won't enable you. There's a difference. What are we supposed to do? I looked at my son. My only child, the boy I'd raised alone, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, and I felt nothing but sadness. You'll do what I did when your father died and left me with nothing. You'll work. You'll sacrifice. You'll make hard choices. You'll figure it out. And if we can't, then you'll learn. That's what struggling teaches you. It teaches you what you're capable of. It teaches you who you really are. I paused. I just wish you'd learned it before you treated me like real estate instead of a person. I closed the door, locked it, and stood there listening to them argue on my porch. This is your fault, Rosalia hissed. If you had just asked her differently. My fault? You're the one who had to run your mouth on that phone call. She was never going to help us. She's been planning this. She's been hiding that second house this whole time. We should call a lawyer. This can't be legal. Hiding assets from family. She didn't hide anything, you idiot. You just never paid attention. Their voices faded as they walked to their car. I walked to my kitchen window and watched them leave, watched them drive away from my house. My house. Mine. And I realized something profound. I had spent 3 years afraid of losing my son. But I'd lost him long before I said no. I'd lost him the moment he stopped seeing me as his mother and started seeing me as a solution to his problems. The only difference was that now I'd stopped pretending otherwise. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with my journal and wrote, Sunday, November 5th. Mark and Rosalia came to the house demanding to know why I wouldn't help them. I told them about the second house. They were shocked, angry, felt entitled to stay there even after everything. Rosalia asked if I'd rather rent to strangers than help family. I said I'd rather rent to people who respect me. Mark asked what they're supposed to do. I told them to figure it out, like I did. They left angry, threatening lawyers, blaming each other. I own 2 houses. They only knew about one. And still, they don't get to decide what I do with either of them. I closed the notebook and looked around my quiet kitchen. For 12 years, I'd lived in this house alone. 12 years of washing dishes in this sink, 12 years of drinking coffee at this table, 12 years of missing Tom and raising Mark and working myself to exhaustion. And for 3 of those years, I'd let Mark and Rosalia treat me like I owed them something. But I didn't owe them anything. I'd given them everything I had to give. And it still wasn't enough. Because people like that, people who take and never give back, there's never enough. The more you give, the more they expect. The more you sacrifice, the more entitled they become. I was done sacrificing for people who didn't appreciate it. I was done giving to people who only saw me as a source. I was done being managed and manipulated and guilted into compliance. My name is Jessica Caldwell. I am 60 years old. I own 2 houses. I worked for every brick in both of them. And I don't owe anyone, not even my own son, the right to take them from me. The war was over, and I had won. Not because I destroyed them, but because